So imagine waking up, checking your brand new, $200 sleep tracker,
Right.
and it tells you that you slept beautifully. Just a perfect night of recovery.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, completely missing the fact that you were, tossing and turning, just staring at the ceiling for over an hour and a half.
It's like the ultimate betrayal by a wearable. You feel terrible, but your app is giving you a gold star.
Exactly. And that scenario, it isn't just a hypothetical. It is exactly what happened during one of the most rigorous stress tests of Garmin's newest device.
Yeah, the CIRQA.
Right, the Garmin CRQA. It's their new screenless fitness band. And to figure out what it actually does versus, what the marketing claims, we are tearing into 3 incredibly detailed reviews that were published in August 2026.
It's a great lineup of sources for this deep dive, too.
It really is. We've got the accuracy deep dive from DCRainmaker, the mainstream consumer perspective from Matt Evans at TechRadar. And then we're using the 5KRunner as our primary lens for rigorous methodology and comparative data.
Because bringing those 3 specific sources together, that is the only way to really get the full picture here.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, TechRadar represents the average person who just wants their tech to be frictionless.
Right.
DCRainmaker is basically the gold standard for cross-device hardware analysis. And the 5KRunner, they provide this clinical, frankly unforgiving, statistical reality of how these sensors perform.
Unforgiving is the right word. So let's start with the big picture. When the internet rumor mill first caught wind of a screenless Garmin band, everyone assumed it was going to be a Whoop killer.
Oh yeah, everyone thought it was a direct attack on the subscription-based fitness tracker market.
Exactly. But looking at the sources, that is not what this is. The CIRQA was quietly positioned as an ecosystem defender.
Right, it's a retention play. Garmin realized they had a huge problem. Their users love the daytime metrics from those chunky GPS watches, but they absolutely hate sleeping in them.
Because they're huge.
Right, so those users were going out and spending money on secondary devices from other brands just for overnight comfort. And the CRQA exists to just stop that bleeding.
Yeah, I like to think of it as buying the matching subwoofer for your existing sound system.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
You aren't replacing your Garmin watch, you're just plugging a very specific hole in your setup so you don't have to go buy a whole new audio brand.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating is a convergence across all 3 reviews on this point. Despite completely different testing methods, they all agree.
Yeah, the consensus is pretty clear.
The CIRQA is an excellent device for existing Garmin users who want recovery data without wearing a bulky watch to bed.
They do agree on that core verdict.
Yeah.
But the gap in how they actually talk about the device is huge.
It really is.
I mean, TechRadar crowns it 2026's best screenless band. And that's driven largely by just how comfortable it is and how seamlessly it syncs up.
Right, the mainstream feel.
But the 5KRunner era's verdict is much, much more qualified. It's loaded with caveats based on where the raw data just kind of falls apart.
So if it's meant to be this frictionless ecosystem defender, the hardware inside needs to be practically invisible and flawlessly reliable.
You'd think so.
But when we look at the actual sensor Garmin shows, things get incredibly weird.
They really do. This is one of the strangest parts of the whole release.
So the CRQA costs $199.99, but inside it carries Garmin's Elevate Gen 4.1 sensor.
Which is, yeah.
Now for the listener, this is basically a modified version of an older Gen 4 sensor, just with skin temperature tracking added.
Right.
But over a year ago, Garmin launched a device called the Index Sleep Monitor for $169, and that cheaper, older device carried the newer Gen 5 sensor.
It looks like a glaring contradiction.
Complete?
Garmin's official explanation to reviewers, which TechRadar just accepted at face value, was that the Gen 5 sensor would have made the CRQA puck too thick.
Too thick.
Right. They claimed they had to use the older Gen 4.1 to keep the band comfortable for 24/7 wear.
But I'm looking at the 5Runners review, and they just call complete BS on that excuse.
Oh, yeah. They bring out the calipers.
Right. They point out that the older Index Sleep Monitor, the one with the newer Gen 5 sensor, is actually thinner than the CRQA.
Yeah.
So wait, I'm paying a $200 premium in 2026 for a sensor from 2024, and the excuse they give for not using the new one is physically disproven by their own product line.
I know, it is frustrating. But, hardware design is rarely just about the physical dimensions of one single component.
What do you mean?
It's likely a complex supply chain thing or a power draw puzzle.
Yeah.
So yes, the Gen 5 sensor itself might be thin enough,
Hmm.
but it might require a significantly larger battery to hit Garmin's battery life targets.
Ah, okay.
So you put a bigger battery in, and suddenly the CRQA is too thick.
Okay. I hear the engineering logic there, but as a consumer, I don't really care about their battery constraints,
Fair point.
If I'm doing a high-intensity workout, am I going to be punished with bad data just so Garmin could save a millimeter of thickness or, like, clear out old component inventory?
Yeah, does this older tech actually hold up when the user starts sweating?
Exactly.
That is the ultimate question. And it's only sense where we really need to understand how these devices actually work.
Right.
Because all of these bands use optical heart rate sensors. They basically shine a light into your skin to illuminate your capillaries.
Yeah.
And then a tiny camera measures the microscopic changes in blood volume with every single heartbeat.
Okay. And any sudden movement or flexing can disrupt that light, right?
Exactly. If the band shifts around, ambient light leaks in.
Right.
Or if you clench your fist and restrict the blood flow in your forearm, the sensor just gets completely confused.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And this is why the 5Runner didn't just wear the CIRQA around the house. They ran 6 highly structured, honestly punishing tests to see exactly where the algorithm breaks.
Let's walk through those, starting with the wrist placement, because the successes were actually pretty surprising.
They were.
So in a height WireX gym simulation, the CRQA was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a tough test.
Right, and for anyone unfamiliar, HYRX involves a lot of varied, heavy movements, like sled pushes, kettlebells, rowing.
A ton of forearm tension.
Exactly. It requires intense gripping, which, as you just explained, usually restricts blood flow and makes wrist sensors freak out.
Yeah, usually they just drop the heart rate completely.
But the CRQA matched a W-Whoop to within 1.3 beats per minute and a Fitbit Air to within 1.0 beat per minute. Both of those were rated excellent.
Which is wild. That tells us Garmin software algorithms for filtering out that specific noise from forearm tension are highly, highly mature.
So even with the older sensor, the math is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Right, the algorithm is saving it.
It also nailed a flow yoga session, matching an HRM 600 chest strap to within 0.8 beats per minute.
Very impressive.
And in outdoor cycling, it matched a TimeWear Vital Pro chest strap to within 1.1 beats per minute. Rated excellent again, though they did note a couple of minor underreads near the start.
So the baseline is pretty well established there. For steady-state activities or workouts with consistent gripping, the wrist placement is perfectly adequate. But then we get to the failures. Oh boy. And they are spectacular. Still on the wrist, right, during running intervals, the CIRQA completely lost the plot.
Just totally fell apart.
It underestimated the heart rate at the start of 4 out of 5 running reps. And worse, it had a massive positive bias of roughly 9 to 10 beats per minute.
Which is huge. That means the algorithm was essentially hallucinating a heart rate almost 10 beats higher than reality during the recovery phases.
Right. It had the widest limits of agreement, meaning the data was just scattered everywhere. And it was rated the weakest wrist result in their entire test set.
And it gets worse.
It does. If you think that's bad, the open water swim was a disaster.
Just terrible.
It was underreading by 20 to 30 beats per minute against 3 other devices simultaneously. The 5KRunner rated it poor, calling it the single worst result in the entire review.
Well, think about the physics of a fast running interval or an open water swim. Yeah, a lot of splashing.
Right, your arm is swinging violently, it's smacking against the water or pumping rapidly in the air. The device is violently shifting on your skin with every single stroke or stride.
So the sensor is just blinded by the chaos.
It's essentially blinded, yeah.
It's like trying to read a book while riding a roller coaster. There's just way too much movement for the lens to focus.
That's perfect analogy.
But here is the beauty of a screenless band, right? That you aren't forced to keep it on your wrist.
Exactly.
So the 5Runner took the band, moved it up to the biceps, and repeated that disastrous running interval test.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
The result, it matched the chest strap, the Polar Sense, and the WHOP MG to within a staggering 0.3 beats per minute.
Wow.
Rated excellent across the board just by moving it up the arm.
Because you took the sensor off the roller coaster and put it at a quiet desk.
Right.
The biceps provides a large, fleshy, stable surface with far less jarring movement than the wrist. The bones aren't right there shifting everything around.
Which brings up a really crucial contrast with the TechRadar review.
Yeah, their take was very different.
TechRadar only found one outlying strength session where the CIRQA was about 10 beats per minute off against a Polar H10 chest strap. And the reviewer's conclusion was basically just that a longer session would have averaged it out.
Yeah, that is such a common consumer mindset. assuming the tech will just fix itself if you wait a few minutes.
Just give it time, right?
But the 5-runner res position is much more precise.
Mm.
These failures aren't random glitches that average out. They are modality specific.
Meaning,
Meaning, if you do running intervals or swim on the wrist, it will fail every single time.
right.
The fix isn't waiting. The fix is moving the band to your biceps.
Let's bring DCRainmaker's hardware analysis into this too, because he agrees completely that the bicep placement is vastly superior.
He does.
But he adds this kind of biological wrinkle to it.
Cold weather.
Oh, this is a great point.
He found that cold weather cycling absolutely ruins wrist heart rate accuracy for the CIRQA.
Yeah, and that's his pure biology.
Well, in cold weather, your blood vessels constrict. Right. They pull away from the surface of the skin to preserve your core temperature.
Yeah, sure.
So less blood near the surface means it's incredibly hard for the optical sensors light to read those volume changes we talked about.
Mm.
Moving it to the bicep, which is usually under a warm sleeve, just solves the problem entirely.
That makes total sense. Now, DCRainmaker also highlights a software flaw that could absolutely drive me insane.
The low power mode thing.
Yes. So to save battery, Garmin devices keep the sensor in a low power mode, and they only turn up the sampling rate when the software detects a workout.
Right.
But if the CIRQA's auto detect fails to register the start of your workout, it just stays in low power mode, and you lose that high fidelity heart rate data forever.
It's super frustrating. Because there's no screen to visually confirm your workout has started, you are entirely reliant on the algorithm. Remembering to manually press the single physical button on the band.
Right. And if you are someone who relies on Garmin's body battery or their training load metrics to decide, how hard to push your workout tomorrow.
Yeah, it misses everything up.
Exactly. Losing that data doesn't just ruin a pretty graph. It actively messes up your training plan for the whole week.
Exactly. So if the bicep is the undisputed champion for intense workouts, we need to look at the other 23 hours of the day where you aren't sprinting or swimming.
Because that's the main draw.
Yeah, the main reason people buy these screenless bands is to track their sleep. So how does the CIRQA handle the night shift?
Well, the 5KRunner gives us this incredible 15-night parallel test. They tested it against 5 other devices.
A very thorough setup.
Very. They had the 8 Sleep mattress cover, the Amazfit Helio, Fitbit Air, Polar Loop 2, and the WAP-MG.
Okay.
And the foundational metrics are actually great. Resting heart rate tracked the 8 Sleep reference to within 0.4 beats per minute on average.
That's really tight.
And breathing rate tracked just 1.3 breaths per minute higher.
See, that's the bare minimum for a recovery tracker. If it can't get resting heart rate right, just throw it away.
Right, don't even bother.
But the CIRQA passes that test easily.
It does. But then we look at heart rate variability, or HRV.
Oh, HRV. Always tricky.
Yeah, so the CIRQA consistently read a higher HRV than every single comparator across the entire test period.
Interesting.
So if I'm a consumer, I'm thinking, okay, my Garmin says I'm way more recovered than my WHOOP says I am. Why is there a discrepancy?
Well, we have to unpack what HRV actually is. It's not a raw measurement like a simple pulse.
Right.
HRV measures the microscopic variance in milliseconds between your heartbeats. And to get that number, algorithms have to filter out what they consider abnormal or ectopic beats.
Like skipping a beat.
Exactly. And Garmin clearly uses a completely different mathematical formula for filtering those beats than W or 8 Sleep does.
So the reviewer actually attributes this to algorithmic differences rather than just measurement noise.
Precise.
Meaning, the CIRQA tracks your personal trends reliably, but you just cannot compare your Garmin HRV score directly to your friend's WHOOP score. You're basically speaking 2 different mathematical languages.
Exactly. You just have to pick one device and watch your own trend line. Don't worry about the absolute number compared to other brands.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's talk about time awake, because this takes us right back to that scenario I mentioned at the start of the show.
The tossing and turning.
Yeah. The CIRQA severely underreported time awake.
It was bad.
It came in lower than the 8 Sleep reference on 12 out of 14 nights by an average of 42 minutes.
Almost an hour off on average.
And on that one specific night, there was a massive 104-minute gap. It literally thought the reviewer was getting great sleep while they were actively tossing and turning for nearly 2 hours.
This is a fundamental limitation of wrist-worn accelerometers, though.
How so?
They rely on movement to determine if you are awake.
Oh, I see.
So if you are lying in bed, stressed out, staring at the ceiling, but you're keeping your arm perfectly still, the band just thinks you're in deep sleep.
Because it can't tell the difference between lying still awake and lying still asleep.
Right. It doesn't know you're stressed.
Which brings us to sleep stages, the holy grail of, deep and REM sleep that every app gives you a colorful chart for.
The famous colorful charts.
Yeah. The 5KRunner found that the CRQA's sleep stage breakdown showed absolutely no consistent agreement with any other device.
Not at all.
But TechRadar, coming from that mainstream consumer angle, they actually loved the sleep tracking because it correctly identified their wake times and perfectly matched the user's perceived sleep quality.
Which is so interesting.
Right. If the reviewer felt well rested, the band said they slept well.
It's the classic divide between a clinical tool and a lifestyle gadget.
Yeah.
TechRadar reflects the field test. Most people just want validation for how groggy they feel in the morning.
They want the app to say, yes, you have a reason to be tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the 5Runner provides the hard statistical reality. And as both they and DCRainmaker point out, wrist-worn optical sensors are not EEGs.
Right.
They cannot read your brainwaves. Trying to guess your REM sleep from your wrist movements and your heart rate is just that. It's a highly educated guess. This is an industry-wide problem, not a CRQA-specific weakness.
But, if sleep stages are essentially an educated guess across all these brands, why are consumers trained to obsess over their REM metrics instead of just focusing on resting heart rate?
That is the million-dollar question.
We are stressing people out over fabricated numbers. It really feels like the gamification of health just to keep people opening the app every morning.
Oh, it absolutely is gamification.
Yeah.
Scientifically, your resting heart rate and your HRV trends are vastly more reliable indicators of your central nervous system's recovery than any wrist-based guess at your sleep architecture.
Okay, so bringing all this hardware, all the workout data, and the sleep data back to the listener's wallet.
The verdict.
Did the CRQA deliver on its narrow promise? Is this ecosystem defender actually worth $200?
Based on the alignment across all three of these sources, the answer is mostly yes.
Mostly yes.
Yeah, if you already have a Garmin watch, you use Garmin Connect, and you just want to take the bulky watch off at night without losing your body battery data, this is the perfect device.
But if you buy it, you have to be acutely aware of those limitations.
Oh, definitely.
If you do open water swimming or wrist-based running intervals, the data will be absolute garbage unless you buy the bicep strap.
You have to respect the physics of the sensor,
Yeah.
move it to the bicep for intense movement, and let it live on your wrists the rest of the day.
It really is the perfect subwoofer for the Garmin ecosystem. Like we said earlier, it fills the gap.
It does exactly what it needs to do.
But, looking at how capable this device actually is, handling HYR aux, tracking baseline recovery, doing 90% of what a watch does without even having a screen, it kind of leaves me wondering where the wearable market is heading overall.
How do you mean?
Well, 5 years from now, will having a glowing computer screen strapped to your wrist feel as outdated and cumbersome as carrying a pocket watch?
Oh, wow.
Maybe the ultimate luxury in the future is just invisible technology. Just something to think about the next time your wrist buzzes with a notification.
That really is the defining question for the next era of wearables. Do we actually need the screen, or do we just need the data?
I think the CRQA makes a pretty strong case for just the data. Well, thanks for diving into this with me. And for everyone listening, keep questioning the numbers. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.